Hey everyone, welcome back. Let's talk about the new copper golems. Now, of course the copper golem is going to be incredibly useful for small-scale storage applications due to its ability to autonomously organize certain items. But I'll leave all those applications for other people because coming up with good ideas is definitely not my strong suit. So instead of coming up with useful inventions, we're going to try and optimize the copper golem's worst skill, which is shuttling items extremely slowly over long distances. So let's start off with the basic mechanics. Copper golems, when they're not doing anything or idling, look in a 32 block radius all around them for copper chests if they're empty-handed, or normal chests if they happen to have something in their hands. If the copper chest has something inside of it, they take it out, and if the chest they arrive at has space for that item, they put it inside. If not, they'll look to other chests to see if they can drop their stuff off. This obviously has a bunch of practical sorting applications, but I only really care about how far I can make them walk before they start to get confused. Generally, the copper chest that they're picking up items from, and the chest they're dropping items to, should only be about 32 blocks away from each other. String these 32 block segments together, and you can get a really long supply chain going. If you're wondering exactly how slow this whole process is, it takes about 44 seconds for the copper golem to get from the copper chest to the chest to the copper chest, all to deliver a payload of exactly 16 items. If we try to suspend all disbelief of this ever becoming a practical application and try to make this better, how can we actually make this faster? Well, obviously we could use certain enhancements, but the speed is eventually going to run out, and that's not exactly sustainable. So the next best method might be to add more copper golems. But unfortunately, we're pretty immediately going to see an issue. Creates a bit of a traffic jam. Now, hypothetically, we could add another lane to our road so they could theoretically move past each other, but in reality they're always going to try and take the shortest path to the end, and they're always going to end up smashing face first into each other. So how do we actually come up with a solution to this problem? Well, if you've been playing the game for a little bit, you might know that ladders actually disable collisions. So, if we just code the entire track in ladders, or in this case, twisting vines, then we're no longer going to have that issue. With this new addition, we can actually achieve a throughput of slightly faster than hopper speed. Oh, by the way, if you ever see a barrel with an armor stand above it, I'm just running a command that constantly refills and unfills it with garbage items, allowing it to function as simply an infinitely full or infinitely empty sink for items. On another note, I also tried a bit more of a vertical configuration, but this is definitely one of those ideas that definitely seems a lot better in your head. To add to the list of random things that I tried to see if they'd work, I also tried putting the copper golem in a minecart, which definitely decreases the amount of time it takes for them to get from point A to point B. It also stacks quite nicely, but it comes with the difficulty of not actually being able to put multiple on the same track. I also tried making a system that cycles them, but it ended up being extremely unreliable for some reason. So what actually is the lesson for today? That we shouldn't be using copper golems for long-distance item transport? That's a pretty stupid lesson. In order to prevent this video from being complete nonsense, here's something that's interesting that also happens to be too small to put into a full video. It's a pretty interestingly constructed 100% beacon-based 7-segment display that uses some wacky block configurations in order to make a at least somewhat readable display from the center. What's interesting is that it technically doesn't have any moving parts in the top section, and it's technically only controlled by beams of light coming in from the bottom. Does this technically make it kind of like a purely fiber optic display? I have no idea. Anyways, that's my somewhat modest contribution to the flurry of snapshot videos that are going to come out in the next week or so. If you're interested in seeing me make more somewhat interesting but mostly useless garbage, make sure to subscribe to the channel, check out the Discord, links in the description, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye!